A new dawn, Reconstruction, and the promise of equality. This was a pivotal moment in American history, a time when the nation sought to redefine itself. The Civil War was over, slavery was abolished, the Union had triumphed, but the victory was just the beginning of a new struggle. But the fight for equality was far from finished. The end of slavery did not mean the end of racial injustice. After the Civil War, America entered a period known as Reconstruction. This era was marked by efforts to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into society. From 1865 to 1877, the nation worked to rebuild itself and grant rights to formerly enslaved people. Families who had been torn apart by slavery sought to reunite and start anew. It was a time of hope, but also of great struggle. Communities came together, determined to make the most of their newfound freedom. The South, resistant to change, clung to old ways. Many white Southerners were unwilling to accept the new social order. Racial prejudice remained deeply rooted in society. Discrimination and violence against African Americans were rampant. Despite the challenges, African Americans embraced their newfound freedom. They built communities, started businesses, and sought education. Schools and churches became centers of Black life. They also participated in government, exercising their right to vote and hold office, electing Black representatives to Congress for the first time. These leaders worked tirelessly to advocate for the rights of their communities. The nation stood at a crossroads, grappling with the true meaning of freedom and equality. The choices made during this period would shape the future of the United States. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 emerged from this turbulent yet hopeful era. It was a significant step towards equality, though the journey was far from over. Champions of justice Sumner, Grant, and the fight for civil rights. These two figures played pivotal roles in shaping the landscape of civil rights in America. The fight for equal rights was led by many brave individuals, each contributing in their own unique way to the cause of justice and equality.
Charles Sumner, a senator from Massachusetts, was a powerful voice against slavery. His speeches and writings inspired many to join the abolitionist movement. He believed deeply in equality for all, regardless of race or background, and worked tirelessly to make this belief a reality. Sumner fought tirelessly for the rights of African Americans, often facing fierce opposition and personal attacks. He introduced legislation that outlawed discrimination based on race, setting a precedent for future civil rights laws.
President Ulysses S. Grant, a Union hero, also championed civil rights. His leadership during Reconstruction was crucial in protecting the rights of newly freed African Americans. Grant used his power to protect Black voters and enforce Reconstruction laws, ensuring that the gains made during the Civil War were not lost. He saw the Civil Rights Act of 1875 as crucial to fulfilling the promise of emancipation, providing a legal framework for equality.
These leaders understood that true freedom required more than just the absence of slavery. It required active efforts to dismantle systemic racism and promote equality. It demanded equal protection under the law, ensuring that all citizens, regardless of race, had the same legal rights and protections, and access to the same opportunities, from education to employment, allowing everyone to thrive in a just society. The Civil Rights Act of 1875, a bold step forward. In 1875, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, a monumental piece of legislation that sought to address the deep-seated issues of racial inequality in the United States. This law aimed to guarantee equal rights to all citizens, regardless of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It was a bold attempt to bridge the racial divide that had long plagued the nation. It was a landmark piece of legislation, a bold step towards creating a more just society. The act was a beacon of hope for many who had long suffered under the yoke of discrimination and segregation. The act declared that everyone was entitled to the same treatment in public accommodations. This included hotels, restaurants, theaters, and transportation. It sought to ensure that no one would be denied service or access based on the color of their skin. It also prohibited racial discrimination in jury selection, ensuring that justice would be administered fairly and without prejudice. This was a crucial step in making the legal system more equitable. The act was a powerful statement about the nation's commitment to equality. It was a declaration that the United States was ready to move forward and leave behind the injustices of the past. It sent a clear message that discrimination would not be tolerated in any form. The The act was a call to action for all citizens to stand up against injustice and fight for a fairer society. The passage of the Civil Rights Act was a victory for civil rights advocates who had tirelessly campaigned for change. It was a testament to their perseverance and dedication to the cause of equality. It represented a significant step toward fulfilling the promise of equality. The act was not just a legal document. It was a symbol of hope and progress, a reminder that the fight for civil rights was far from over, but that significant strides had been made. Key provisions, guaranteeing equal access and protection. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 had several key provisions. It stated that all people, regardless of race, were entitled to equal treatment in public accommodations. This meant that Black Americans could not be denied service or charged higher prices in places like hotels and theaters. The act also addressed the issue of jury duty. It stated that citizens could not be excluded from juries because of their race. This was crucial to ensuring fair trials for Black Americans. The act aimed to create a level playing field for all citizens, regardless of their race. It was a powerful piece of legislation that sought to dismantle the legacy of discrimination. Section 5. Early impacts. Progress and resistance in a divided nation. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 had a mixed impact. In some parts of the country, it led to positive changes.
Black Americans were able to access public accommodations that were previously denied to them. They served on juries and participated more fully in civic life.
However, the act also faced significant resistance, particularly in the South.
Many people refused to comply with the law. They continued to discriminate against Black Americans, often with impunity.
The federal government was slow to enforce the act, and its impact was limited in many areas. The struggle for equality was far from over. Section 6. The Supreme Court's blow, declaring the act unconstitutional. In 1883, the Supreme Court delivered a devastating blow to the Civil Rights Act of 1875. In a series of cases known as the Civil Rights Cases, the court ruled that the act was unconstitutional.
The court argued that the 14th Amendment only prohibited discrimination by state governments, not by private individuals or businesses.
This decision effectively gutted the Civil Rights Act of 1875. It left Black Americans vulnerable to widespread discrimination in public accommodations, transportation, and other areas of life. The court's ruling was a major setback for the civil rights movement. Section 7. A legacy of resilience. The fight for equality continues. Despite the Supreme Court's ruling, the Civil Rights Act of 1875 left an important legacy. It demonstrated that Congress was willing to pass legislation to protect the rights of Black Americans.
The act also served as a powerful symbol of the ongoing struggle for equality. Although its provisions were struck down, the act inspired future generations of activists.
It showed that change was possible and that the fight for justice must continue. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 may have been short-lived, but its impact resonated throughout history. Section 8. Paving the way. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and beyond. The Civil Rights Act of 1875, though ultimately unsuccessful, paved the way for future civil rights legislation. It established a precedent for the federal government to play an active role in protecting civil rights. Nearly a century later, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 finally fulfilled the promise of the earlier act. The 1964 Act outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It was a landmark achievement in the fight for equality. The Civil Rights Act of 1875, though flawed and short-lived, played a crucial role in this journey toward justice. Section 9. Echoes of the Past. The enduring relevance of the 1875 Act. The Civil Rights Act of 1875, though passed over a century ago, still holds relevance today. It reminds us that the fight for equality is a continuous process. The Act's history also highlights the importance of a vigilant judiciary and a society committed to upholding the rights of all its citizens. The struggles and setbacks of the Reconstruction era serve as a stark reminder.
They show us that progress is not always linear, and that vigilance is necessary to protect hard-won rights.
Section 10. continuing the struggle, upholding the principles of equality today. The legacy of the Civil Rights Act of 1875 calls upon us to continue the struggle for equality. We must remain vigilant against discrimination in all its forms. It is our duty to challenge injustice and to create a society that truly embodies the principles of equality and justice for all.
The fight for civil rights is an ongoing process, requiring constant effort and dedication from each generation.
Section 11. Conclusion. A testament to the unwavering pursuit of justice. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 stands as a testament to the unwavering pursuit of justice. Though ultimately unsuccessful, it represented a bold step toward creating a more equitable society. Its legacy continues to inspire, reminding us that the fight for equality requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a belief in the power of collective action. The struggle for civil rights is a marathon, not a sprint, and the pursuit of justice must continue until equality becomes a reality for all.